Why men have a hard time speaking up. Manning up isn't the answer. It only holds men back from seeking mental help when they need it most, and it's killing them. Facts. The World Health Organization, or WHO, 2018, reports that richer countries see 3 times more men than women dying by suicide. Men misuse drugs 3 times more than females. 1 out of 6 men smoke daily, and 1 out of every 2 drink alcohol. We also know that 1.5 million Australian men aged 18 and over experience mental health issues at some point in their lives. And if this still doesn't bother you, consider the things men are capable of compared to women. Research from around the world states that men find it very difficult to discuss their mental health problems. It should alarm you, especially when comparing suicidal behaviours between men and women across Australia, with male suicides outnumbering female suicides 3 to 1, yet men remain far less likely to seek help. How do we know this? First, men account for only 40% of Medicare-subsidized mental health services in Australia. Second, there were 3,139 suicide deaths in Australia in 2020, of which 2,484 were males and 755 were females. The stigma around men's mental health. WHO's 2018 report basically states that a man's ego is what holds them back from admitting they have problems and seeking help. Society has labelled men's masculinity upon such a pedestal that they would rather suck it up or hope it will just go away on its own. And we only have society to blame. Mental illness among men has somewhat turned into a silent epidemic affecting millions. It calls for our urgent attention. Australian culture must be redefined, so every guy won't have to look both ways to express themselves. Not to mention the impact of the recent COVID-19 pandemic, making every male even more vulnerable in isolation. Still, many old school people do not see it that way. They still view mental health struggles as a personal issue and lack of discipline. And this dilemma puts pressure on men to always be strong and manly. But men are just like everyone else, only human, and a lot of them struggle in admitting they need help. Jacob, who has worked as a case manager in workers' compensation for more than 20 years, shared this. I have seen a lot of changes over the years, many positive ones. Whilst culture is changing, as a society, we are reducing stigma and increasing opportunities for early support. However, many men still experience shame and guilt about their mental illness that stops them from asking for help. Masculinity's burden. Men don't only seem to have trouble asking for help. Studies have found men are somewhat antisocial, and then there's their upbringing. Like how their old school fathers instill in their heads to always be a man. Perhaps this is why men struggle to admit they are experiencing symptoms of mental illness. And if they are less willing to ask for help and more likely to keep it to themselves, they will continue to live with poor mental health and use drugs and other substances as coping strategies. The reality is, men are struggling with depression, anxiety, and other mental health conditions. They aren't embracing healthy coping resources, and they often turn to alcohol and other drugs to numb the pain. The problem remains, how do we as a society change men's perception of seeking help before they get to that point? Before it goes too far? Reducing the stigma. A lot of men have been trained since childhood by their fathers or society to toughen up and fix their problems themselves. So, seeking help for whatever reason would likely result in a strike to their manliness. The point here is everyone should be able and capable of voicing their concerns on mental health and substance abuse issues without judgment, because no one is immune to this. Talking with others about how it affects them fosters empathy, camaraderie, and notably support. It's believed that a lot of this comes down to education. We need people to realize that these are medical problems, not choices. That there are effective treatment options available, and that there is hope. It is essential to know that untreated mental health issues can manifest into physical symptoms, especially when self-medicating with alcohol and other substances. Cirrhosis, gastrointestinal problems, bleeding problems, actual changes in the brain. We need people to realize there is a genuine physical downside to long-term alcohol abuse. Awareness and education play an essential role in what can be done to help as early as possible. So, talk to your loved ones. All these options are available and can help, but they have to be open and willing to try them. Asking for help? That's all you have to do. It all begins with asking for help. So why don't men do it? It's so simple, just blurt it out to whoever. I need help. Or, can you help me? A simple, straightforward request. Studies show that men experience different symptoms of mental illness compared to women. For example, males with depression hide their emotions and present angry, irritable, or aggressive. In contrast, women experience sadness and express their sorrow. It is worth noting that symptoms of depression or anxiety can also be physiological, such as a racing heart, digestive issues, or headaches. Males are more likely to see their doctor about physical symptoms than psychological ones. Second, society's expectations and traditional gender roles may explain why males are less likely to discuss or seek help. Third, males may also be more likely to use potentially harmful coping methods, including alcohol and other substances, which exacerbate mental health problems and increase the risk of developing other health conditions. If you're concerned you might be developing a mental health problem, talk to your GP. If you are worried that someone you care about may be struggling, suggest talking to a GP as you would if they came before you with a broken arm. Say it and believe it when you say it. Being able to ask for help is a sign of strength rather than weakness. So, the point is this: it's okay to ask for help, whether for yourself, your loved ones, or anyone you think may need it. And for anyone who has overcome a mental illness in their own lives, don't be afraid to share your story. Stamping out stigma is being willing to talk about when you have needed to ask for help yourself. Support specifically for men. Another way services are changing is by changing the approach to providing support. For instance, communication style and technique. As you know, men and women tend to communicate differently. Incorporating surprisingly simple concepts, such as change in stance, has made communication more accessible and more effective. One way of doing this is the shoulder-to-shoulder style of communicating. It tends to suit men better, with many males opting for this communication style for serious discussions. For example, minimize eye contact. Think of men discussing things while watching sport or fishing, shoulder to shoulder. These small but significant things can improve your communication and help to unpeel a mental health conversation. Man Up is about speaking up.